So maybe you've tried engaging your clients or reaching out to would-be clients on Facebook before in the past, but you've been met with crickets, right? And you're wondering, am I really that boring? Well, I don't know. I haven't seen your posts, so I can't say for sure, but I will say that there is maybe something else going on. You could be doing things that are upsetting Facebook's algorithm, and that is therefore limiting the amount of people that do see your posts. So today we're going to talk about common mistakes that people make with their posts, with their marketing posts, that lead them to not be shared, and also share with you some optimization tips so that you can give yourself the best chance to have your posts and content seen by others on Facebook. So let's get right into it. Welcome. This is the Advisor's Digital Toolbox, where we share with you the latest tech tips and tools that you need to better engage with your clients and grow your business online. I am Horse's Mouth's Doug Pierce, and I'm joined by Devin Kropp. Devin,
Hello, everyone.
How are you today?
Good, good.
Glad to have you back this week. And so I think before we launch into our tips, let's just go ahead and acknowledge the fact that nobody, unless you work for Facebook, and I would guess at a pretty high level, you don't know for sure what Facebook's algorithm is doing and what it's favoring or squelching. And we know that it is, though, changing constantly, right?
Yeah,
So,
that's absolutely
yeah.
true. I mean, Facebook and even more broadly, just like SEO or search engine optimization algorithms, Google's algorithm are always changing and very secretive. So usually, unless like Doug said, you work at Facebook or you really study trends for a long time, it's very difficult to determine exactly what's going on in that algorithm. But luckily, there's a lot of marketers out there who experiment and do figure some things out, but they do change it often. So it just says like a announcement that, things we say here are what's relevant right now. That could absolutely change, but we're definitely going to share best practices, even if that algorithm does change slightly, that should still help you get those posts seen.
And let's be clear about one thing, though, that I think is indisputable, is the fact that, Facebook has been limiting the amount of posts and content that gets shared in feeds from businesses and brands, right? I think in 2018, Mark Zuckerberg made a post stating that, being very transparent about this, saying that to protect, we're going to get, there may be some other motives at work here, but he said that, they want to protect the user experience and make sure that, people's feeds aren't getting cluttered by, content from brands and, marketing messages, basically. They also are in the business of selling advertising. So kind of incentivizing people to pay them to take out ads is probably also a factor there as well.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I saw a stat this morning that said, I think only like 5% of your Facebook followers, if you're a business page, will see your organic posts. And that's not to discourage anyone, because you can definitely increase that number, and still really important from a marketing standpoint to be sharing organic content. But like Doug said, yeah, I mean, Facebook doesn't want people to come on their app, just see a bunch of marketing messages and get off the app, because then they don't make any money. And in the same token, they make money when brands pay them to advertise. So of course it's in their interest to incentivize brands to do paid content. But there are definite ways and benefits of posting organic content, which we'll get into.
Yeah, so let's get into it. Devin, do you want to share your first? Want to just keep going with it? And
Sure.
share your first tip?
Yeah, and just so in case, I know sometimes we have some Facebook newbies on, so welcome. And just to clear, what is organic content versus paid content quickly. Organic is, anything you're going to post on your business page that you don't pay for, that you want your followers to see. So if you write a blog post and you link to it and do a little, Facebook post, that's organic content. Paid content would be an advertisement or a boosted post, something that you're paying Facebook to put in front of people, where organic, it's just, you're posting it and hoping people see it. So just to clarify that, because I know sometimes it can be a little confusing. But my first kind of tip is that the Facebook algorithm is not chronological anymore. So when Facebook first started, it was more simplistic, and basically it would be more like Twitter, where it posts in real time. So what you see on your feed is kind of chronologically what you follow whenever they posted it. Now Facebook has changed that, and they optimize the news feed basically based on meaningful engagement. So they promote posts that make people feel good, that are going to get comments or conversations started, instead of doing it in a chronological order. So I guess my first tip is to think about like the posts that you see when you first log on to Facebook. And usually, like, if someone got married or engaged or had a baby or retired, those are usually at top because there's a ton of likes and comments on it. You feel good, you're happy for that person when you see it. So from a business standpoint, we need to think about, what can we post that is going to make people feel good, is going to promote conversation, get people to comment on it, to like it, to share it, and just try to keep it like as positive as possible, because Facebook wants people to feel good when they're on their app, and they will reward you for doing that. So instead of being like, oh, taxes are so unfair and blah, 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 like try to reframe it in a more positive light, even if it's like, I know taxes can be confusing, but like I help my clients with this all the time, and now they've saved so much money on their taxes that they're on this, bought an RV and are going across the world. Try to keep it positive and inspiring would be my first tip.
Yeah, and I'll kind of jump ahead on my list there and say to avoid something called engagement bait, which is when you're artificially trying to create the things, Devin, that you were just talking about, the likes, the comments, everything like that. When you really go heavy-handed asking for the comments and the likes, it's kind of recognized that Facebook has, caught on to, savvy marketers trying to, game the system through this, and they'll kind of, squelch posts and content that try to artificially game it and, heavy-handedly trying to get those comments and likes. They want you to organically create this engagement and by what you post, not by heavy, ham-fistedly trying to make people do it, basically.
Yeah, that's good, because I see a lot, even when I like Google, latest organic Facebook tips, a lot of people still say like, do stuff like that, like make a contest to be like, comment what you think. And everything that I've read from people that I really respect in the industry says to not do that, because again, Facebook, and they know what you're doing, they have robots that are reading everything you do. So that's a great point, because I see it in a lot of places, and I disagree with the idea that like bait engagement works, because it doesn't.
Yeah, even in video, even in like this live video that we're doing here, I mean, these platforms, people think they can't, because it's not, it's not written content, that, Facebook can't crawl it. But I mean, these platforms all have auto captioning abilities. So it is not beyond the realm of possibility that they are, picking up on the fact that if I say, go, comment and share and stuff like this, that they're recognizing that, flagging it, and maybe they're going to punish the reach on this live stream replay after the fact, or even during it. So they definitely know what you're doing.
Yeah.
There's no surprises there. But and one thing I have seen from a lot of companies is they push people to engage off the platform, off Facebook, whether it's on their website or just some other platform. And they'll say, go to enter this contest or whatever, go to our Facebook page and, say like and stuff like that. And I don't know if that gets punished or not, but I think you definitely want to avoid it on Facebook itself, because they definitely know what's going on there. Okay. I guess my next thing is that you want to avoid linking off Facebook if your goal is to get your content read on Facebook. Facebook has a vested interest in keeping people on their platform, just because they want to grow the platform, and also because the longer somebody's on Facebook, the more ads they can serve them, right? So they're not huge fans of posts that link to your website, that link to your lead magnet or whatever. Like, they want you to pay to do that.
Yeah.
Right? They want you to pay to take out an ad or to boost a post to get people to click off their website. They don't want you to do that for free. So if you've been doing that and you're wondering why nobody has clicked that link, it very well could be because Facebook has suffocated that post and is not showing it to very many people.
Yeah, and that's actually kind of goes hand in hand with one of my tips, because obviously, like Doug said, Facebook does want people to stay on the app, but it is somewhat impossible to like never post a link off of Facebook in your content marketing. And I don't think that either of us are saying don't ever do it. But one thing I will say is, if you are linking off of Facebook to your website or an article or anything else, if the link is slow, if the web page that you are linking to is slow, Facebook will 100% punish you for that. So if you are linking to your website and you do not have a fast website, Facebook is not going to promote that post, because if someone clicks on it and it takes 45 seconds for the page to load, and in that time they've X'd out of it, that's kind of a red flag to Facebook. So in the cases that you do need to link off of Facebook, and there are occasions where that would be appropriate, just make sure that you have a fast working website. If you're linking to some other website, test it and make sure, because if it's slow, no one's going to see the post.
Yeah, and just maybe don't do it all the time. Don't link people off all the time, because if you're doing that, I think Facebook definitely will not be happy about that. Mm-hmm. Was that one of your points? Wasn't that one of your points?
It was, but I have another one that I can share.
Okay, go ahead.
So another one I have just is to think more personally. I think when we're thinking about our business page and marketing, sometimes we get caught up in, having to come off as super professional and always posting things that are, maybe adding educational content or selling something. But Facebook, and this kind of goes back to my first point about meaningful interaction, they do like to see personal things. So if you have, photos of your team, or, you're doing an event or a team bonding thing, share some things that are not so, financially, centered, or something that you don't always have to be sharing about Social Security and Medicare. People want to see that personal side of you. They're probably more likely to interact with that because they can relate to it. I've worked with advisors who, when I look at their Facebook page, they'll share photos if they're, the team is doing a volunteer event together, or if they're having a team party, or, even if they're doing a workshop, pictures from that. That kind of content can really build community within your page and kind of show that personal side to your clients and prospects who are visiting, and that can really form a good connection. And if people are liking it and commenting on it, Facebook is going to promote it. So I would mix up your posts with some personal things. And if you have we always joke about this in our workshops. If you have a pet that comes to your office, or if you're working from home with it now, dogs and cats do fantastic in the Facebook algorithm. Post photos of them. People will comment and like it. It is and kids too, honestly. Yeah, babies, cats, and dogs, you're good. Facebook algorithm will reward you for that.
Yeah, definitely. So going along with the whole theme of, keeping people on Facebook. Well, first I'll say, like Devin, especially with video, you talk about sharing personal content, every video you share on Facebook does not have to be this professional production that you paid a videographer to shoot and, and edit for you. Some of the most powerful things you can do is just, taking a video of you on your phone and uploading it that way. But a tip for making Facebook happy with video specifically is to make sure that you are uploading it natively within Facebook. So don't link to it on YouTube, or don't link to it from your website or Vimeo or whatever. Upload it directly in Facebook. That, Facebook is, it wants people on the platform, and it definitely wants to be a place where people are watching video, right? It wants to be in that, competing in that arena, specifically with YouTube, but it wants people watching video, on their platform. So upload it natively, so that way it becomes part of Facebook's ecosystem, and they're more incentivized to put that in front of people, because then people will be watching it on Facebook.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I don't think a lot of people realize that. But yeah, uploading it to the platform itself makes a big difference.
Yeah. So I'm talking about uploading that MP4 video file, into Facebook as you're making your post. That's what I'm talking about. When I say natively, that's what I mean.
Okay, one of my other tips, and this I guess kind of relates to that, but instead of video, I want to talk about images. And when you're making a post, especially because we just talked about how we don't always necessarily want to be linking off of Facebook. So, what can we be posting? I already talked about personal images, but I want to talk more about maybe business related images, and thinking about when you're writing a post, what kind of imagery are you including with that? Because you definitely should be including an image. Written posts, just it's easy to scroll by that. If you have an interesting image, you have a better chance of getting someone to stop and look at that post. So, Facebook does have a library of stock images that you can use, but I do think that there are better alternatives to make a more interesting photo, or to maybe include a little bit more information in the photo, because like I said, a lot of times images is what grabs someone's attention. So if you can put your call to action or your main point in that image, you're getting your message out twice in one post. So I want to talk just quickly about a program called Canva. It's a free online program. There is a paid version, but for what you want to do, you could use the free version. And it allows you to create kind of graphic images. So you can take, stock photos, but also add text to it. And they're really great because they're built for social media platforms. So they have templates that are already, sized for the correct Facebook posts to make sure that the image is optimized. It's not going to be cropped or zoomed in a weird way, because it's already that shape. And you can make some really cool, professional looking images in just a few minutes. It's really user friendly, and it has its own stock photo library. It has, different templates you can use. So if you're thinking about, writing a post and you want to create an image, I would try out Canva, because it can really create cool looking images, and you don't need to be a graphic designer to do it at all.
Yeah, I think one of the powerful things about Canva is that not only does it do the editing, does it help you do the editing, but it's also a huge resource of stock photos and assets. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to go looking. It's just right there. I think that's one of the most convenient things about Canva, for sure. But yeah, images, look at the popularity of Instagram. That is a platform that is just, images pretty much, and video. People like to see images, and with written content, definitely, I think, avoid making it too long, right? People don't want, you don't want to publish your essay on Facebook, because look, people are, they're reading it on their phone. If there's like this, if they look like Moby Dick just came in on their screen, they're gonna keep scrolling on. They don't want it. You got to go to your point in your text content, and break it up. Make it, think about the end user experience as much as possible. Nick's asking, how do you spell that? Oh, I think he's talking about Canva, Canva, right, Devin?
Yeah, that's correct. And there's a free version, so you should definitely check it out. It is super helpful.
Yeah, and then we got a question from Gregory. Compare Facebook Live versus Zoom meetings for business. So, a Zoom meeting would be like a closed environment is the main thing. It's just you and people who you have invited to the meeting, where a Facebook Live is like, hey, internet at large, or at least Facebook at large, come, come attend my presentation or my talk, or hang out with me. That's the thing. That's what I see is the main difference. Anything?
Yeah, and I mean, you can probably speak more to this, Doug, but I think you would kind of use them in two different ways. The Zoom meeting, like Doug said, is more, if you're doing maybe something for your clients or something you want to invite prospects to, and you want a closed environment where you know who is there and, people can engage within that. Whereas Facebook Live is definitely a stronger tool for like prospecting and kind of getting your name out there. And I'm not particularly sure of the data that you get after a Facebook Live. Maybe, Doug, you're a little bit more familiar with, like, I don't know if you get that contact information, whereas a Zoom, if you make people register, you can, capture that very easily.
That you just mentioned I think the bottom line, the biggest, the litmus test to decide what you want to go with. If you want to do a presentation and you want to get people's email addresses so that you can follow up afterwards, drip on them, so to speak, then you want to use a webinar platform or an online conferencing platform like Zoom, where people do have to register or at least give their email address when you log in. Where when you do something Facebook Live, like if you engage with us, I know who you are, but I don't, we don't have your email address or anything like that. I mean, I think you can, push people to your website and stuff, or to get your white paper, where you can then get their email address. Even though we kind of talked, you got to be a little wary about that on Facebook, but there are other ways you can get it. But yeah, I think really that's the key difference, is that the webinar, it's a closed environment. You're getting people to register, you're getting their contact information, you can then put them into a follow-up sequence, whereas Facebook Live is just going out to the masses, and so maximum exposure. And I do think that, when you go live on Facebook, it is better to spread the word about the replay too, because like if you do something in Zoom or whatever, that's on you to promote the replay.
Right.
But Facebook is kind of doing a little bit of that work for you, and it's just easier. People can share it easier. You can have a conversation in the comments that just keeps going. So that there's that aspect too. But
yeah, there's definitely pros to it. Just keeping in mind kind of what your end goal is important.
Yeah. And I think too that Facebook Live excels in like the interactive, come hang out with me, more Q&A focused thing. Not that you can't do a straight up presentation like a webinar. You can totally do a webinar with something like Facebook Live. But I do think that it's got a little more of a come hang out with me vibe to it. That's how I feel. So yeah, one thing that, getting back to the topic of things to avoid and things to do to maximize your reach with your Facebook content, I think you got to be wary too about going crazy with tagging people, because I think that is another one of those, like engagement bait. That's another thing that like Facebook like sniffs that right out, where you're like going, of course, tag people. That's a great way to make sure that they see your response to their comment. But if you're like creating a post where you're just like tagging person after person after person, that now you're getting into like a spam realm. So I would say avoid doing that. Use, tag people, of course, but just don't use it in a way that you're clearly trying to get as many people as possible to see this post as you can. Just avoid gaming it like that. And it should be pretty obvious to you when you're crossing that line.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't have that on my list, but that is a very good point. Just think anything that you think like you're taking a step up on Facebook, just realize that they're going to know that you're doing that. So anything that seems a little bit spammy, avoid, because they will punish your posts, that post and future posts, if you continue to, abuse the system or whatever. Let me see. Oh, one thing that I will say is to start to be as regular as you can on Facebook. So if you don't post on Facebook right now, or you don't have a strategy or a schedule really, you might want to experiment and post at different times and kind of see the different engagement that you get at different times, because there is, I think, a sweet spot for every business, and every business is a little bit different for figuring out when you should be posting. And the big picture here is that you want your followers to begin to anticipate when they expect to see content from you, especially if you're doing something like the live videos that Doug has been doing. They're on the same day at the same time, and the idea there is that people can schedule around it and anticipate it. Of course, with a video, you definitely want to be doing that and making sure that it's regular. But even with posts, or if you're going to post your blog on there or something like that, trying to do it in a way that is a regular sequence will only help, because people will come to expect it and are more likely to interact when they know that it's coming.
That's a great tip. And it's not always easy. Consistency is like the key thing. And it's also one of the hardest things, because even though once I get into a live stream, I always have a good time, and I'm so glad to do it. But sometimes I don't. Some days you just don't feel like it, and for whatever reason you don't want to do it, and you kind of think like, oh, maybe I could give some excuse, whatever. But no, it's really important to kind of honor that commitment to the people who are showing up for you. And like Devin said, when you create that expectation of when you're going to post, or when you're going to go live, when you're going to share a video, people remember it, and they start to look for it, and that's when you start to really, I think, exponentially grow the amount of people who are seeing your stuff. So that's a great point. I guess next I do want to bring up groups, because Facebook groups are one of these areas that Facebook does heavily promote in people's feeds. It's kind of people's family members, people's friends, and posts from groups. Those are kind of like the three things that I think Facebook definitely wants to get in people's timelines. So if you can maybe think about starting a group. If you have a niche, maybe you make a group around that niche, and that way whenever you post there, or other members of your group for that matter, it does send an alert to people that, hey, check out, somebody posted something new in this group. Something to think about if you want to get what you're posting seen. Groups can be, I think, I can say anecdotally, without a doubt, that Facebook lets me know when somebody has posted something in a group that I'm a part of.
Zuckerberg came out today and said, very transparent, like that post we were talking about the organic reach. He said, we are heavily promoting groups in people's news feeds. So it is a known thing, and it's relatively new, but they can be really powerful.
And then one thing I'll say too is, getting back to video, and this is not technically organic reach, but when you do upload a video, I think it is worthwhile to consider boosting it at the beginning. Just you don't have to go crazy, but throw a few dollars Facebook's way to kind of grease the wheels, to get it out there, and then maybe it takes off on its own. And gets more and more reach. But I do think that that's something to consider when you're talking about sharing a video. Spend a little money at the beginning, just to kind of help it along. Yeah,
that's great. On a similar note, if you have an organic post that just all of a sudden blows up and is doing extremely well, boost that post.
Piggyback
Get it in
yeah.
front of other people, because if your followers like it and are engaging with it, and then you can put it in front of your target audience, they're also going to like it and engage with it. So it kind of works both ways, where if you're creating this content and you're like, wow, this video is gonna be awesome, I put all this time into it, let me boost it, that's great. But if you also just happen to post something and it takes off, it's super timely, or it really fits your niche, boost it afterwards, ride it as much as you can, because that will bring people in, see your other posts, to like and follow your page. You can target them in ads. That's that is the like creme de la creme. Like that's what you want, is new people coming in.
And I mean, this is the strategy that successful Facebook marketers use with their ads, right? You do a bunch of ads, and then the ones that get traction, you put your money there. So why not, follow a similar vein with your regular posts, where you've got proof of concept, people engage with this and like it. Add a little more fuel to that fire. Absolutely.
Okay, I have one last tip that I'll go over. And this is something that I haven't experimented with myself, but I have heard a lot of other Facebook marketers been talking about lately. It's something called user-generated content. And I thought this was important to bring up because sometimes when we're talking about organic posts, it can be hard to come up with, like, what do I post to my page? Should I just link to articles? And we've already said that that's not always the best practice, linking away from Facebook. So, we're trying to think about what kind of content we can post. So user-generated content is basically taking your clients and having them, talk about working with you, or, an event that you did or something like that, getting content from your audience and using that on your page. Of course, with compliance, you have to be careful about like the whole testimonial thing, but they can talk about working with you without making it into a testimonial, or they can share an experience they had or their story. If you can get clients to do that and you can showcase that on your page, that's great content. If a prospect comes and sees that, they're going to say like, wow, this person really enjoyed working with so-and-so. I have a similar story. I'm sure they could help me too. And that just is a different kind of content you can add into your kind of schedule. That's not just, blog posts or videos. It's someone else talking about you.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. So that's it that I had prepared as well, Devin. So maybe we'll hop in and take some questions if you guys have any. I do see one. It's coming from Leslie, who asks, any specific topics to focus on for live videos or just general updates on the market? So I think you can definitely do market updates. I mean, they're timely, so that's good. But I think the big things to focus on in terms of content is education, which the market update is definitely falls in that vein, but also engagement. Maybe just come on and do a Q&A, invite your clients to that and say, hey, if you know anybody that would be interested in hopping onto this, go ahead and invite them. So really educate and community, try to build that community, that interaction. And then also, let's not forget, maybe you just want to have fun. Yeah. Maybe you want to have a trivia game. Maybe you want to have a wine tasting. Maybe you want to just get on live and do whatever you do. Play some music if you're a musician, something like that. Definitely having fun. I think people don't think of that first, especially in the advisor space. It's more, education, I think, comes up first. And that's super powerful. But people do want to just be entertained, and you can mix, these approaches as well. And that's probably the best way to do it, where you can have an educational live stream where you're doing something fun. Maybe you're having a wine tasting while you're also, talking about, giving your market update, something like that. Any
or if you pick like that's great. I think that's kind of what I was getting into with the personal thing too, is we don't always have to be so business focused. We can have a little bit of fun and show a little bit of our personal side. So I definitely think like Facebook Live is the place to do that. And you should. And like Doug said, you can incorporate education in it too. So if you want to talk about Social Security, maybe, that's something you really specialize in. Maybe you do a 5-minute talk and then you play like a trivia game on Facebook Live and people can comment in their answers, or you have a link to something where they can, choose the answers and you can follow. I think getting people to interact and, have fun with it is a great way to get viewers. There's so many things you can talk about on live, and there's so many different things you can do. And sometimes you got to experiment and see what works and what gets views and what gets engagement. But don't be afraid to try out new things and have a little bit of fun.
Yeah, and I want to just go back to one point you made, Devin, about don't be afraid to be personal and be you, and don't be so uptight professional. I think this is a huge thing where people want to watch other people. They don't want to watch
Hmm.
somebody who's like super stiff and like
Yeah.
they want to see other people, and they definitely want to do business with other people. So just be more of yourself and try to. I think it takes a little time to really get there, but just relax a little bit. Talk to people like they're sitting across from you and you're having coffee. That's kind of the vibe I think that works best, rather than being all stuffy and not making
Hmm.
any errors, and you've got this immaculate presentation. Nobody wants to watch immaculate. That's boring.
Yeah.
People want to see
I,
other people.
Yeah, I think too that's a great point because I'll give a lot of webinars for Horse's Mouth, and I think I have a very different demeanor when I'm giving a webinar versus when I come on this. Like when we do these lives, I think of it more of a conversation with Doug and with everyone who's watching, and it's more about having that back and forth and being able to answer questions and talk more naturally. Whereas in a webinar, of course, I want to answer people's questions and get my point across too, but that's the more professional setting where I think Facebook Live is really the opportunity to have people get to know you on a more personal level. And that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, and I do think it is platform specific. So when you're talking about Facebook, that's definitely true. You definitely want to get a little more personal because Facebook is more of a that's where people do socialize with their friends and their family and stuff like that. If you're doing LinkedIn Live, which you do have to apply for, by the way, and get accepted as a LinkedIn Live streamer, so you can't just go out and do that tomorrow. But maybe I think it's a scale. It's a scale. Maybe with LinkedIn, you do fall a little bit more on the button up the shirt a little bit, end of the scale. But still, even on LinkedIn, I think you do have to be more business casual instead of business formal.
Yeah.
I think it still pays dividends there to let your hair down a little bit, so to speak. Definitely, definitely. And if you're going live to something like YouTube, same with it's kind of similar to with Facebook, where you do want to be more personal, for sure. Let's see here. So, oh, and by the way, I did want to say that since we've got a couple questions about live streaming, I do think now is like such a big opportunity to start live streaming because of the fact that so many people, I mean, yes, many parts of the country are getting back to, normal, whatever that is. But still, there's a lot of people who are at home, not connect. People are definitely not getting the person to person interaction that people just crave. So with live streaming, you can really like kind of fulfill that need for your clients and for would be clients or clients' friends, and that's they want that right now. And live streaming has really, I mean, it's gone through the
Yes.
roof since COVID-19 hit. It's been really skyrocketing. So jump on the train. I mean,
Yeah.
let's go. And if you do start live streaming, let us know about it. We'd love to come and join you
Yeah.
and hang out with you. So thank you for the question, Leslie. So Wayne is asking, how do you get the horse's mouth frame on this video? Tech question, yes.
Yeah.
So, so Wayne,
I have no idea, Wayne.
yeah.
That's all
So,
Doug.
okay, it depends on it depends on the platform or the service that you are using to live stream. If you go directly into Facebook and go live natively through Facebook, you are not going to be able to have overlays like this with logos. You're not going to be able to bring in other assets like the video, like the logo reveal I played at the beginning of the stream. You're not going to be able to bring in production elements like that. But if you use something like, well, first of all, I am using a software called vMix. And Ecamm Live is the Mac equivalent. vMix is PC. But this is an encoder, is a switcher and encoder that allows me to take in Devin's video feed and take in all these different assets and the overlay that you see, and then encode it and send it to Facebook for this Facebook live stream. I've noticed I'm like, I'm not going to go too much in detail, but then I always go into too much detail. But if you do want to, if you want to easily be able to live stream with some of these elements, StreamYard.com is a great place, is a great service to get some of these bells and whistles, but with a really good ease of use. vMix is not, I would not call vMix easy to use. It's very powerful, but it's not easy to use. But StreamYard, it's going to give you the ability to put a banner. It's going to give you the put titles, to put the overlays, but still keep it easy. And you can even have like, you can stream to 1080p. Not that full HD. Not that matters. Not that matters to for Facebook, because it actually caps people to 720p. Okay, I'm ranting. I gotta stop.
Well, if I can add one thing, because that's like, obviously our production looks really great, and we're very lucky to have Doug on our team, who has really kind of gone into this live streaming world and video world since before COVID-19, but really into it during this pandemic. And we're really lucky to have all of that. And this obviously looks great, but don't let what ours looks like discourage you from getting started, because it doesn't need to look completely professional. The point of Facebook Live is that it looks natural, it looks organic. You can just go like your smartphone and film yourself and talk, especially when you're just starting out. Like, don't let technology stop you from getting started. You can always make it look better in the future and get more comfortable with different platforms Doug mentioned, but it doesn't have to, look like a heavily produced TV show. It can be very simple, and that can still be so powerful.
Yeah, being overly produced can actually be a turnoff for some people, where it does seem less approachable. You know what I mean? Whereas if you do have a more normal setup, it makes you feel more approachable. I think that's just what I feel. But production definitely does matter. You should go and up your production, but don't worry about it at the beginning. Just go live with what you have, and just over time add things, as we talked about. Maybe get a microphone first, because audio is the most important. Before you look at lighting and then camera. Just go. You can totally go live from your phone. Totally, and it'll be fine. It'll be great, and do everything you need to do. And Facebook does let you, when you go live through Facebook, you can do things like poll, like there's like polling, and there's like stickers I think you can put up. It's been a while since I played around with it, but there's cool little toys you can play around with when you go live directly through Facebook. So it's totally an option. Yep. And actually, with Instagram, if you want to go live on Instagram, you actually cannot do what I'm doing now. Instagram, it's through their terms of service that you have to go live through a device, through a phone,
Interesting.
an iPod. They will actually like ban you if you go live using something like this. So yeah, if you think about using Instagram for live streaming, just be mindful of that. You actually have to use, because they want to keep that feel that we were talking about, where it is
right.
It's more approachable and authentic, quote unquote. But so thank you guys so much for the questions. They've been great. And if you have any other questions, go ahead and leave them in this post, and we'll answer them there after we're done here. So hopefully I just didn't tick off Facebook's algorithm by asking for that directly. But go ahead and do it anyway. And any other final words, Devin, before we wrap up, or you said?
I just would say, if you have been debating getting started with Facebook, do it, experiment. There's so much you can do on the platform. People are really accustomed to seeing businesses in their newsfeed now, so don't worry about posting and that feeling uncomfortable. You can provide a lot of great value through what you post on Facebook, and just trying new things can help you learn more about the algorithm and get that post in front of new people. So give it a shot, and let us know what works, what doesn't work. We're always, want to hear what's going on.
Yeah. And I would say too that don't worry about it being too late to get started on Facebook.
Yeah, it's not. It is not.
Yeah. Certainly there's more noise now than when it first got started. But still, you got to look at like the amount of users that are on it, the amount of people you can reach. It's just huge, and maybe they are, maybe they are cutting down on the organic reach you can get, but you can still reach people, especially if you're savvy about it and you use some of the tips we talked about today. So we wish you the best of luck in reaching out to people on Facebook, engaging with people on Facebook, and getting the word out about what you do and how you help people. That's what it's all about. So until next time, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern, for the Advisors Digital Toolbox on Horse's Mouth Live. Take care, everybody.
Bye, everyone.